Ciao ragazzi. So today I'm going to talk to you about the new revolution that is coming. That is the age of humans. That's going to be powered by 5G.
The turning points in human history have all been about things. The Industrial Revolution was about machines. The space age was about science and rockets. The information age was about computers and data. But now, we are entering the age of humans. Truly, magnificently, utterly powered by people. Where people would be able to do anything they dream of. Children learning of atoms by seeing inside atoms. Doctors performing surgeries from miles away. The ability to see the invisible. To play, to learn, to live, to work, the way one only dreamt of. Because with 5G ultra-wideband, technology is no longer about what technology can do, but about what people can do with it.
Well, they said in the video, very strong statement, they said the Industrial Revolution was about machines. The space age was about science and rockets. The information age was about data and computing. But the new revolution will be about humans if we make the choice to understand the technology and what it means to us and means to our future now, not when the future comes. So my job as part of RYOT Studio, as the head of RYOT Studio for Europe, we are, first and foremost, a production house in Hollywood. We make films. We make documentaries. We've won awards. It's on some Peabodys, some Emmys. We've been nominated for an Oscar award 3 times. We've lost every time, but the nomination was an honor. And as part of our business, we also have the studio. Now, the studio is the commercial side of our business. And more in Hollywood and in London and Milan, those that are producing content are also producing commercial. Because there's a very important revolution that's already started happening, which is the movement of technology in this space. That's why we have RYOT Lab. We've found that users, consumers, they don't care if a strong message is being brought to them by a story writer or by an advertiser, if it's brought in interesting ways. So we've used technology. We've used technology to engage users. That's how we differentiate ourselves in Hollywood. That's how we differentiate ourselves in the commercial space as well. So my job, essentially, is to look at all of the technologies that are coming up every day and bring them into the studio to engage, to thrill users, to tell stories in ways that they've never seen before. Now, I mentioned that we lost the Oscars, but no problem. We won another award. RYOT won one of the most innovative companies in the world by Fast Company. Fast Company, the very well-known magazine, United States, that looks at companies that are using technologies in the right ways to be prepared for the future. And they called out our strategy around 5G as a reason why we were one of the most innovative companies in the world. Our strategy has been built over the last few years around 5G. Yes, 5G is not here yet. It is not here. I admit, 5G is not here yet. But it will come in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And we have to be ready. I feel like my company is ready. I feel like myself as an individual is getting ready in my career. But can we all say the same thing about our businesses? Now, the reason why we're talking to businesses now about 5G is because we've seen this story before. For the first time in history, we can stop and take a breath and look back and look at telecom and the changes that have happened to telecom and see not just how it's changed communication, but how it's changed industry and how it has changed the world. Let's think about it. When we started from 0G to 1G, no telephones to telephones, that didn't just change the way we communicated, it changed travel, it changed human relationships, it changed business exponentially. The G just means generational technology, not 1,000, nothing complicated, nothing numerical. It means the technology changes. And when we changed from 1G to 2G, we saw the birth of mobile phones. And we stopped talking to each other as human beings, and we started texting each other. My 75-year-old mother, her primary method of communication with her son and her grandchildren is text messaging. That's not a change in communication. That's a change in human behavior. And then we went from 2G to 3G. An entirely new revolution started. That changed so much. Human beings were able to walk around with these things in their hands and upload and download data, most notably photographs. And that was the mass adaption of social media. Social media did not start with Facebook. We had MySpace, we had Neighbor, we had many first movers, but the telecom technology wasn't there for social media to be a strong change to the way that we did things in our lives. And then the technology changed, and then we changed as individuals in our behavior. It changed the way, again, we communicated. It changed the way we advertise. It changed the way we did politics. It changed the way children bully each other. It changed a lot more than communication. And then when we moved to 3G to 4G, where we are now, we've seen an entirely new change in something called the gig economy. Uber Eats, Deliveroo. These services were not capable of existing without the technology, the telecom, to support them. We have incredible amounts of technology that you've never seen yet. And the reason why you haven't seen it is not because the technology doesn't exist, because the telecom power is not strong enough to bring it to the masses. There's a great example of 4G in the works. The entertainment industry has been a strong industry for 100 years. And then when we went to 4G, everything changed. When I was a child, growing up in Canada, I got my DVDs in two ways. One, I went to Blockbuster, got some popcorn, rented a DVD. Or two, I went online, right? And I got a DVD from Netflix. Yeah, Netflix. Netflix is not a new company. Netflix is an old company. It's an old company like Blockbuster. But Blockbuster was here, and Netflix was here. But all of a sudden, when technology changed, we saw that out of those two companies, one of them had a strategy, and one of them didn't. So this is why we're talking about the technology now, 2 or 3 or 4 years away. Be a Netflix, don't be a Blockbuster. If you look at where we are, yes, 5G's not here yet. Yes, we're here. But this is when we have to start making a plan. This is when we have to start deciding how we as individuals, businesses, society are going to use that technology. Because when we don't, we lose control. So this is all about 5G connectivity, when we will have 5G, versus capability, what we will do with it. We look at connectivity, there's a lot of media out that says, 5 years away. It's not really true. Actually, 5G connectivity is here today. This is something called the Ookla 5G map. If you Google this, you can find it. I say bookmark it. It tells you every moment when a new 5G network opens up across the world, there are 303 5G networks currently running in the world today. 20 of them they're run by 20 different operators. And if you look at how they're broken up across the world, you see most of them are in Switzerland. Why? Because the Swiss have made a concerted effort to say, before 5G is widely available, we'll have a strategy. We're going to get a jump on our competition, other countries, other economies, other financial centers that are trying to draw in. It makes sense that they want to jump and move ahead because we've seen it before. They want to be Netflix, they don't want to be Blockbuster. You see the difference between the number that are commercially available and the number that are limited availability. Commercially available simply means that users can grab a 5G phone and they can do something where they can connect with a 5G network and pay a rate per month. And yes, there's a low amount of those. But for us as business people, we need to recognize that there are a lot of limited availability, i.e. 5G test beds open in the cities in which we work and the cities in which we live, and we may not even know about them. I talk often to brands, to commercial enterprises, what are you doing with 5G? And they say, nothing, but neither is my competitor. And I've just left their competitor's office, and they're telling me everything that they're doing with 5G, but they're not telling anyone. This is a competitive advantage that people are taking now to make a jump in the future. But the media that you read every day is not about what businesses are doing. The media is not about how governments are positioning themselves for the future. The media today is about whether or not our phones will be faster. And yes, your phones will be faster. But that is just such a small piece of the puzzle. People aren't going to adapt 5G and buy more expensive 5G phones and more expensive data plans if the value exchange is just a faster phone. But the truth is, the value exchange is going to be massive. And that's why we call these the 8 currencies of 5G. What are the things that we're going to trade on with consumers and businesses that is going to drive the mass and fast adoption of this incredible technology? Let's start with the first 2. Why are phones going to be faster? That's a lot more important than fast phones. Well, phones are going to be faster because of 2 things. One, peak data rate increases. Peak data rate is the speed in which data can be transmitted. And secondly, data volume is going to increase exponentially. So the amount of data you can transfer at any given time will increase. So let's use a practical example. Let's say I had a garden hose, yeah? A garden hose that you spray your back garden with or your plants with, a garden hose. And it ran from there to there. The length of that hose is the speed that data can currently travel in 4G. Data being water in this case. The width of that hose, that's the volume. That's the amount of data that can pass at any given time under 4G. So when we send something, when we send data, and it comes back to us, that's about the speed it currently runs. 5G technology changes that garden hose and shrinks it down to the size of a hula hoop. A hula hoop, you know, a hula hoop. Like that's the speed that we decrease now to. And the amount of data that we previously could use increases to the size of an opening in a hula hoop. So instead of data traveling like this between your phone and a server, it travels like this at mass amounts of data. Think about the repercussions of that. Think about the results of that are much bigger than a faster phone. Think about what that does to our devices. The main thing it does is we no longer need computing power in our devices. Our devices don't get smarter, they get dumber, and they get smaller. They get really, 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 really small, so that we don't need to carry these around anymore like this. In fact, that computing technology can be in your eyeglasses. They can be in a contact lens. They can be in a wristwatch. They can be in an ear hole. This is unnatural. Wearables are natural. That's why Google has put out this release, an AR release for Google Maps, so that you can use it in your glasses and you no longer need to use a big, chunky devices, because the computing power happens in the cloud, in the edge, somewhere else. It doesn't have to happen locally. Secondly, the connected space changes altogether. We can connect with anything, anywhere. Planes, trains, automobiles. Yes, planes are going to be connected, which sucks because you're going to be on email all the time when you're flying, but that's a change. But something drastic is also going to change as well. The amount of devices you can use for every kilometer increases to up to 1 million. So when you go to Camp Now or you go to San Siro, no longer do you walk into a black hole of commercial and social. The worst place for a fan to be for Barcelona is in the stadium right now. Because they go into the stadium and they can't tweet, they can't share, they can't buy things with e-commerce, and this changes entirely. This changes a one-way commercial conversation, Barcelona fans yelling, "I love you, I love you, I love you," to the team yelling back, "We love you too, buy some things from us." And when you think about the implications of that, it gets really exciting when you know that that network can then be chopped up and very dynamic and used in many different ways. 4G networks are slow, they're chunky, they're dumb. 5G networks are dynamic and smart, and you can change them in a blink of an eye. So think about that in the sports world, when you can communicate to home fans and away fans with different marketing messages. You can communicate to a first-time fan and a season ticket holder in different ways. Now, think about that stadium as a city. Think about the stadium as a city. You no longer have home fans and away fans. You have citizens and tourists that you can communicate with different marketing messages in different ways. This is a lot more than a faster phone. Now, lastly, is what we call the end of the wait. Latency is practically going to disappear. Latency is when you turn on your phone, you search for something, data sends, come back, and that 1 second of a blank screen, that's latency, right? No big deal. What's the value exchange there? Well, latency basically goes down to from 1 to 5 milliseconds. That's a really big deal because that's about the time of human reaction. So we're now looking at latency basically disappearing. Now, for a faster phone, that doesn't really matter. But what about things where 1 second really, really, really matters? Like automated cars. 1 second is a matter of life or death. That's why we don't have automated cars at scale yet. 4G networks are not powerful enough for automated cars. Now think about another industry where life or death really matters in 1 second. Video games. Massive industry already. Think about what is going to happen when children in India and China no longer need to pay 600 euros for a console, for an Xbox, and they can access every game in the world, like Netflix, for 4, 5 euros. You think that gaming is big now? Think about when every child in China, in India, in Italy, and all around the world have access to this without the barrier of cost that we currently see today. Think about how strong and powerful advertising is going to need to be within these video game systems for us to make this work, for us to make it commercially viable. Now, this is our cheat sheet of all the things that we think are going to be upset very soon in the world of 5G. Now, I'm not saying memorize all of these different things, not at all. But I'm saying look at these different industries, and don't just look at your own industry. Look at other industries and try and find where's the opportunity. Yes, our industries are going to change, and that's a challenge. But yes, other industries are going to change, and that is a massive, massive opportunity. Now, let me give you a brilliant example of what a company is doing now, not tomorrow, on their road to 5G.
Keeping kids entertained on long road trips may never be the same again. In the future, you'll be able to hop in the backseat of an Audi or any other car, put on some virtual reality glasses, and take part in a realistic VR game, movie, or educational experience that's informed by the actual movements of the car itself. Audi is showcasing that technology this week at CES in Las Vegas, teaming with Disney and Interactive Experiences to show Marvel's Avengers: Rocket's Rescue Run in the backseat of an e-tron. Under the technology, the battery electric crossover functions as a ship manned by the Guardians of the Galaxy, with the passengers navigating an asteroid field together with Rocket Raccoon. The demo doubles as a teaser to Marvel Studios' forthcoming movie, Avengers Endgame.
Now, I want you to think about that. That's Audi, one of the premier car manufacturers in the world. Smart, technologically advanced company. They know their commercials. They know their advertising and marketing strategies really well. Do you think the reason why Audi is investing in virtual reality technology today in the back seats of their cars is to sell more cars today? No, absolutely not. But this is part of their road to 5G strategy. They are moving into a space that they don't know, that they know they have to be in 10 years' time. In 10 years' time, automated cars will be a reality. I'm not saying everywhere, but I will tell you, in 10 years' time, Audi is going to be ready. They know in 10 years' time, they're not just going to be competing on how well their car drives, because a lot of people aren't going to be driving. They know they need to compete on entertainment systems. Because when people are making decisions of an Audi or a BMW, they're going to be looking at how well does this entertain me? Because I'm not driving. Is this a good workspace? Can I have shared entertainment experiences with my family? Because my family is going to be together. So not only are they looking at their space and how it's going to be interrupted, automotives, they're looking at my space. It's terrifying. They're actually going, okay, and then when we get them with content, we're going to give them advertising, Marvels, Avengers, Endgame, advertising, branded content. They're moving in on me. They're moving in on my game. New revenue streams, because their other revenue streams are going to be threatened. I love that example. Now let's look at capability. So you might say to me, okay, so what do we do now? What are the things that we can do now with 5G so we can be more prepared? How can we use this technology today? My advice is to look at the fact that in digital today, it's not really a great user experience. And the reason why it's not a great user experience is because everything is in 2D. Everything is in 2D in digital. Is this really the digital revolution? 2D. I mean, human beings are 3D animals. That's why we go to concerts. That's why we go to stadiums. That's why I'm here and you're here. We could easily do this on a giant 4K screen, but that's not what human beings want. And I'll tell you something. We have the technology for 3D. We've had it for generations. 3D is not the problem. The problem is the telecom is too slow. 4G is too slow. So let's start looking at ways in which 5G is going to unlock 3D technology for us to interact with our consumers in new and different and better ways. We took over our Verizon lab and we turned it into a studio. And we started concentrating on 3 different technologies that we could use today to prove the value exchange with our consumers of 5G. The value, turning a 2D world into a 3D world. This is a shot inside one of our studios in LA. This guy here is wearing a motion capture suit. I'm sure you all know motion capture. It's not a new technology. It's an old technology, so we have the technology. Motion capture is like the film Avatar. You put this suit on, you move, and then in the next frame, you can use computational engineering to create rendered animations, just like Avatar. It takes months. It's expensive. Let me show you what we're doing with it. With 5G technology, we are able to render instantly. Because 5G is so fast and the data transmittal and speed and volume is so fast, it can be done on the cloud, in edge computing. Let me give you a really good example of the 45th President of the United States.
Now a word from the President of the United States of America.
I stepped in toilet paper? Well, that's not all. Look at that.
Thanks, everyone. I am very excited to say we have a huge guest joining me today, LeBron James.
Mr. President, LeBron James said he didn't want to come.
He's uninvited then. Who else we got?
We've got Jared Campbell, the host of Yahoo Sports The Rush.
I'm just kidding. I would never invite LeBron James here. I have a better guest.
So the point, 1, that's hilarious. 2, that's live, that's instant. That has never been done before. 5G is not faster phones. 5G is allowing us to do things that we could never do before because telecom was not fast enough to allow us to do it in instant 3D, which is what human beings want, which is the real digital age, by the way. Not 2D screens, 3D screens. Okay? Now let's think about what this then has to do with so many other industries. What's another industry that kind of sucks with digital, online? Online shopping. Come on, online shopping is terrible. It's a terrible experience. I want that shirt. Yeah, it looks good. I want those shoes. Yeah, okay. What do we do? You can't try on a shirt. You can't try on the shoes. If you want to buy a sofa online, you have to just go, yeah, okay. You can't take the sofa and put it in your living room. You can't see it. You can't look at it. That is not a good user experience. But we have the technology for volumetric. It just takes a really, really long time until now.
Volumetric capture will change the way we actually see each other, the way we interact, how we communicate. We firmly believe that we are migrating from a 2D world to a 3D world. Volumetric capture has been typically relegated to farms of servers to do 3D rendering. It generates an enormous amount of data. We're talking 7 gigabytes per second, and you simply cannot move that kind of content around without a strong network. With Verizon 5G and edge compute, we're able to do all of that using a single machine. We can offload that to the cloud to be able to convert a multi-hundred, multi-thousand SKU catalog into 3D assets. Would normally take months to do. Now with 5G, we'll be able to do that in the blink of an eye, and we're excited to actually be able to take advantage of that.
So listen to what he just said there. Something that used to take us months, this is our partner, they do retail catalogs. Something that used to take us months can now be done in the blink of an eye. This is revolutionary for e-commerce, and this is what we are doing today. So that's volumetric, that's motion capture. The other one that you're probably more familiar with, which I hope you are more familiar with, is augmented reality. Augmented reality, taking the digital world. What is augmented reality? Taking the digital world and mapping it onto the 3D real world. And this is revolutionary in how we're going to interact with online and the benefits that we're going to have. I want to give you that example of augmented and mixed reality, not in your industry, not in my industry, but in a very, very important industry to the world.
Medical imaging forms the cornerstone of all of surgical practice. 5G allows us to rethink how we use data with these emerging technologies. Augmented reality and advanced connectivity really liberates the data and puts the data right on top of the patient, which is where it's needed most. The devices themselves cannot render that amount of data in full fidelity. And so 5G allows us to offload that amount of rendering and computational power to the edge or a cloud and be able to stream that amount of data into the headset in real time. We're actively working with Verizon's engineers to move the entire field forward, and it's only going to create more value as it matures over time. The possibilities are endless.
Brain surgery. Brain surgery. Take a CAT scan, 2D image, 3D patient, 2D, 3D, 2D, 3D. Mistakes happen. In the new world, this is today, not tomorrow, already happening. Doctors are able to take 3D imaging, map it live onto a patient, and it's changing the world. So that's the perspective I want to look at today, about how this technology is nothing to be afraid of, but how it's going to empower humans to do more. I invite you to do the same. Grazie.